Welcome to the Brad Taylor. We have a purpose and passion for business. I'm here with my wife, Kathy, and today we're going to continue to talk about working with your spouse. Our last podcast, we kind of talked about a situation where somebody went on our website, thebradtaylor.com, and they were a franchise owner struggling to work with their spouse. And so we gave them some advice, which was what? Make a list of the responsibilities that they
divide and conquer
that they had to run their business and who was going to do what. Today, I think we really need to talk about a topic that we discuss with couples pretty consistently that has to do with working together, and it's be cautious on what information you share. Be cautious on who you're sharing this information with. You want to give some insights on that?
Well, I think when you're working with your spouse, we obviously have a lot of things we have to talk about in relation to how the business is running, our employees, our vendors, our customers, and most of that needs to try to stay between you and me. It's not anybody else's business, how we run our business. So I think not sharing with family and friends your ups and downs of everything, every little detail is really important.
And do you have some more detailed outlines of that, of why you think that's so important? Because we know in the past of business owners that we are friends with, or business owners that have potentially represented us over the years, and it backfires. It could be as little as sometimes as a business owner you'll have success, and unfortunately some people don't view your success as the hard work you potentially did to earn the success you have, but they become jealous maybe.
Definitely, they become jealous of your success, but then when you're maybe in the harder times, they can't appreciate those either. So maybe things aren't going all great and wonderful, and you tell everybody how terrible everything is, but yet you're still working on it because your goal is to make the business successful. But they only now are hearing the negative things about your business.
So why do you think you shouldn't discuss your business with family?
I think there's just a fine line with what people need to know, just in general, about my business, about my marriage, about my family. I think you have to be cautious on what you share, because you want people to support you, but they don't need to know everything.
They don't need to know the details.
I mean, they can know some details,
right,
but they don't need to know everything.
Well, and I think that overall, your business is structured so that, if you're working, this is more in relation, I think, to working with your spouse too. But I think because you work together all the time, you're inclined to talk about things when you're out with family or when you're out with friends, and you just have to be cautious because, it can be interpreted differently, maybe, and people may take it the wrong way. So I think it's just an important subject, and it's probably a lengthy subject, but I think it was important to mention.
Well, I think you have to always try to be positive, even when you're going through those harder times with your business, but also just in the things you learn. Like, I had so many relationships with people in our business, and I learn things and they tell me things, and it's really not for me to tell other people.
Well, that's a whole different issue, and that's a great point, because in our traditional business, people confide in us a lot of stuff, and you never want to be known as someone who gossips, because they're entrusting to you and sharing with you things that are happening within their business, whether they're, moving to another firm or whatever they may be doing, and I think that your integrity is not there if you share things that you know you shouldn't be sharing. I think that if you are known as somebody that gossips, how do you think they're going to interpret you on potentially talking about things they may share with you? I think that gossiping is you start that practice, you're nailing your coffin shut. You have no integrity. Comments? You're just shaking your head.
Well, you don't want people to gossip about what you tell them.
Right.
So you can take that to your family or friends, and then they take that to somebody else, and the story keeps changing. And
it's
not
just
what
not.
it
You
originally
want
was.
people to be able to entrust in the fact if they're sharing something of confidence, you keep it within yourself, or your team. Okay, let's move on. Another subject I think that's really, really important to talk about is the transparency in financials, making financial decisions. I think that when you work together as a couple, you both have to be on the same page with that. And I'm not talking about going to Office Depot and buying a ream of copy paper. I'm talking about making major purchase decisions, or leasing something, or taking funds out of your business that are not used for business. And I think that as a couple, it's important that both husband and wife are on the same page on this, because otherwise it can become not so pretty.
Well, you have to have a clear understanding between each other of what are the everyday kinds of expenses that you're both going to be making, and that is just kind of expected in doing business. And then you have the other things that, hey, we better talk about before I do this. So I think every small business owner will have a different amount. It might be $1,000. It might be $5,000. I don't, but when you're buying something that's not part of your everyday business budget, you need to talk about that, or it would create friction between the two people, because all of a sudden an invoice arrives or a credit card charge comes through for $10,000 for something the other person thought they needed for the business.
Well, also, it goes down to receivables as well. I think that it's really important that you are collaborating with your bookkeeper, you're collaborating with your accountant, and that everybody is on the same page, because at the end of the day, some businesses have receivables, some don't today. And,
and if you do have receivables, what are the payment terms, and are they being enforced, and is somebody going after it, or is it all just sitting there? And if it comes in, great, and if it doesn't come in, oh well. I mean, you can't go after that money 6 months or a year later and think you're going to get it as easy.
Well, and like we would tell our people years ago,
we're not a bank.
You're not a bank, and that's where having a bookkeeper facilitate your receivables takes that pressure off you, instead of you trying.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah. So
I think the last thing that I want to talk about today is goal setting. And I think as a couple, it's really important to set goals, not just weekly or monthly or, bi-monthly, but annually. And project out, what do you want to try to accomplish over the next year? What were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say, a lot of business owners, they'll update their business plan every year. So the economy changes, the industry you're in, everything changes so quickly these days that you might have written a business plan when you started your business 5 years ago, but maybe you should update that every year and keep yourself on track for what you want and how you're going to grow and what your next goals are, because hopefully you've met a lot of those goals of your first business plan.
Well, it's also knowing your numbers, and it's not just financial numbers, it's your projected growth, your sales, your inventory. It's just really important to sit down as a couple and review your business on a consistent basis. Don't assume. And I think that's the big thing. Don't assume. Setting goals is really, really important. When you have a bookkeeper, involve your bookkeeper in some cases because they're going to bring insights to the table that you may not be aware of. And then go one step farther and involve your accountant because you don't want to be surprised at the end of the year of something you could have taken care of, but because you neglected it, now you're in a situation where you got to backpedal and figure it out.
Right. Yep. Here's where we were, here's where we are, and here's where we want to be.
That's right. So we appreciate everyone for following us. You know, we're having some incredible responses and questions coming in from the website, thebradtaylor.com. So if you have a question for us, you need some advice, feel free to go to the website, fill out the quick form, and we will get back to you personally, as well as if you want us to kind of talk about it a little bit during one of our podcasts, we'll do that too. You guys have an awesome week. Thank you so much.